So many of you may not realize that millennials, those who are under age 40, currently form the largest generational block within the SOA. Now, some of them are ASAs, and many of them live outside of North America. But even if you don't count them and look at their engagement, they are less involved than other generational blocks within the SOA. So how can someone who's at the leading edge of the baby boomer generation get them more engaged? Well, the first thing we ought to do is ask them. And indeed, the SOA has been doing that, talking to these young professionals at the FACS and at various SOA meetings. And they're due to report back to the board. In the meantime, what suggestions do I have? Well, first of all, I think that we should be directly asking these individuals to volunteer for committees and for research projects, at the FACT and within 3 months after attaining their fellowship. Secondly, I think that we should continue to have discounts for belonging to sections, and probably for the first 3 years in which they are fellows. Indeed, why don't we have a section just geared for young professionals? Another idea I have is that for young professionals who are working on committees in the SOA, we ought to have reduced registration fees for meetings. Indeed, we ought to do this for all SOA members who are volunteering. And this is something that I introduced at Yamana, where individuals who wanted to attend a meeting every year at company expense could do so as long as they were volunteering on an SOA committee. This is something that when I was first starting out, that the Prudential Insurance Company had as a policy, and it really encouraged volunteerism. Indeed, within the 5 years around when I was general chair of the E&E committee, 4 out of the 5 general chairs were from Prudential. And that takes about a 15 to 18-year commitment to get there. Finally, I'd like to mention that this is not just a problem for the Society of Actuaries. In a survey done of national associations, getting engagement from young professionals is one of the top issues that they have, and we're working with the national organization to come up with ideas. And by the way, it's not only young professionals that we should focus on. I think that career ASAs have a lot to contribute to the society, and we should get more of them on committees. And also retirees. I don't think retirees are as engaged as many of them even want to be. Well, I support the board findings. In 2018, there was a task force that met with actuaries in Asia and South America, mostly focused on education. And here are some of the things that we learned. First of all, that we should continue giving our exams in English. Indeed, English was considered to be a bonus for those actuaries who were proficient. Second, the actuaries asked that we add more international information onto our syllabus, and particularly areas of international finance, such as IFRS. This seems like a perfectly reasonable request. A third area is, could we develop specific courses in given countries, as we have done in Taiwan and Hong Kong? And if there's enough interest, we would consider that. And finally, the fourth area is in continuing professional education, where the SOA has agreed to work with actuaries on site in various countries. So I think the SOA needs to continue its growth in the international area. And there are certainly countries such as India, where we're currently sending work to hundreds of actuaries in India, and they don't have a relationship with the Society of Actuaries. There are other countries such as Vietnam and the Philippines that we should consider expanding our work. And there's much more work to do in South America. As President-Elect and President, I'd be willing to travel to any of these countries and talk to them about what we can do to help them grow their own actuarial societies. I think it's been well established that organizations and professions that have leadership that more closely resembles its members or the public that it serves is better able to make decisions and to have greater influence on those members and the public. So I think there's two ways in which this SOA needs to increase its diversity. Number one is among international actuaries. As we're growing, we're not getting the proportional support on committees and on the SOA board internationally, and we need to make greater efforts in that area. The other area, which is talked about more often, is in North America, where the participation and proportionate representation of minorities in the SOA is much lower than it is in the general population. So here again, the SOA has had a task force, in fact, a joint task force with the International Association of Black Actuaries, the Actuarial Foundation, and I believe also the Casualty Actuarial Society, where we've talked to minorities. And we learned three things. First of all, that many of them are not aware of the actuarial profession, especially growing up. Number two is that those individuals who are strong in math and science, they're tending to pursue careers in engineering and especially computer science. And third, and unfortunately it's true, that a much smaller percentage of minorities in the United States are even prepared in mathematics to take the SAT exams, get into a college, and pursue an actuarial career. So what can we do in those three areas? The first one is individuals aren't aware of the actuarial profession. Well, this is something that we've already talked about increasing the visibility of the profession. And we need to do this when students are in high school and in middle school. The Actuarial Foundation can help with this, as we have programs that are geared to students and their teachers in both middle school and the high school. And as we send out information to these students and teachers, we should have information about the actuarial profession. The second problem is individuals who are strong pursuing engineering and computer science. Well, this is partly related to the first problem of that they're not aware of the actuarial profession. But we can do more in the way of promoting scholarships for these diversity students. I mean, currently the Actuarial Foundation has scholarships that can follow a student through 4 years of college. The International Association of Black Actuaries has diversity scholarships and a mentoring program. But when I look online, I saw only 6 other scholarships available. Why doesn't the SOA have a diversity scholarship program? And finally, the last issue about how can we better prepare students in mathematics. Well, here again is a program that the Actuarial Foundation has called the Math Motivators Program, where actuarial students and actuarial professionals are giving up almost a half a day a week to tutor students in inner city schools. We currently have this program available in 6 different cities and about 15 high schools. But as you can imagine, there are many more schools that would benefit from this, as the program has been wildly successful. The SOA is a strong supporter of this program, and in fact, you can donate to the Math Motivators program, and the SOA will match it, or you could help us expand to a city that you live in, and also help give some of your time. It'd be greatly appreciated.